Hello, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you on the startup workshop number 2 in our community. Yeah, great. I happy to have everybody you in the chat. I see people are already welcome us. Okay, I have the first question before we begin. Please write number 1 in the chat. If you are new to the LabLab.ai, so you never participate in the hackathon, it's 1. And 2, if you already participated in some hackathon on LabLab, so you're not new and you know what we'll do here actually. All right, okay, 222. I see. Oh, we have people that new to LabLab today. That's fine. We have very new people. Okay, that's great. That's great to have a lot of new people here. And I'm sure this webinar will be really important for you today because you will see actually the sharing from people that were participating here and actually won the hackathons and go further with their startups. So that's really experience from hackathon people, actually how to found your startup when you are really hackathon person. And all right, if you have any questions, I just need to tell you before we'll kick off. If you have any questions to the speaker or to LabLab itself, feel free to ask them in the chat because I will be your MC for today and for chat as well. So I'm more than happy to answer to all the questions you may have. Also, right after each speech, we will have Q&A sessions. So guys, feel free to write your question to the speaker and we also will discuss it here on the stream. And let me just invite our first speaker. We have Rahil here. Rahil is near me today, and I'm super excited that he agreed to talk today because he's the winner of 3 LabLab hackathons. It's really a lot, and he had really a lot of passion to work on all these projects. He was the winner of AI21 hackathon, Cohere, and Stable Diffusion, while he collected all the technologies I believe we had here. So I will be really excited to hear his talk today. Rahil, are you with us? Just unmute to let
Yes.
us know.
Hi, Alicia.
Great.
Hi.
Hello. Happy to
It's a
have you.
pleasure to be here.
What do you want to talk today? Could you please introduce a bit this talk to people?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm here to talk about how to come up with winning ideas. My background is in software engineering, and I've done a bit of data science as well. I did minors in computer science and physics, and I'm interested in problems that can be solved by AI. In my free time, you can find me reading, bouldering, or binging murder mysteries.
All right, that's really great. Especially bouldering. I guess we'll talk with you about it after the session. But still, thank you for introduction. And I guess if you are ready, you may share your presentation and we will be starting to kick off. All right, I can see it now. Maxim, are we ready with presentation as well? Good. Okay. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Fantastic. So, hi everyone. My name is Rahel Gunaratha. It's my pleasure to be here. So yeah, I'm here to share my experiences on hackathons and talk about specifically teamwork and communication and how to come up with ideas for hackathons. So I'm not going to restate this part. I already did it, but we can move on to the next. So yeah, as Alicia said, I've won the AI Transformers Hackathon, Stable Diffusion Hackathon, a Metaverse Hackathon, and most recently the AI21 Labs Generative AI Hackathon. So for the most recent hackathon, which was AI21 Labs, I used web crawling, semantic search, and large language models to create a question answering tool for specific information. And it basically allows you to find specific information and provides answers in a clear, understandable way, and includes sources and more information should the user need it. So my inspiration for that was because I was struggling to find a specific bit of information in some documentation. So I thought, and the search bar was not helping me at all. So I thought, how do I fix this? And I remember a long time ago during a Stable Diffusion hackathon, I was talking with Alicia, and during our conversation, she said, you found very specific problems or pain points and you're solving it with AI. And that's pretty much it. But great ideas, they have a little bit more to it. So I'm going to talk more about that as well. So first, I want to talk about the changing technologies. Over the years, there's been a series of changing technologies, and that greatly impacts how businesses are able to make money and make profits. So here we have a chart, and we see series funding in 5-year groups. And you can see something happened between 2006 and 2010 that just had a huge boom for the industry. And that is AWS, Amazon Web Services. So it let large companies basically outsource their infrastructure to a dedicated service. They didn't need to worry about databases or servers. All that was handled by AWS. Um, but nowadays, you have problems with large companies, and it's a problem specifically known in reinforcement learning, and that's the explore versus exploit dilemma. So if you're trying to explore, well, then you're going to develop new products, you're going to enter new markets, you can invest in new tech, but you're not sure of the gains from that. You're not sure if that it's going to make money. So big companies will usually do exploitation instead. They'll leverage existing knowledge, and those have guaranteed returns. They might be lower returns, but they're guaranteed returns, and they optimize existing processes, which is less risky. But the issue with that is that might lead to stagnation. One of the big things that happened with Google this past year was their code red for ChatGPT and the worry that it was going to replace Google. And that was partly a result of them being caught flat-footed. They were stagnated. So the old way of doing startups is that you do a small part of what a bigger company is doing. So, for example, companies are outsourcing their IT services and their HR services to companies that are dedicated on providing those. Um, so that's usually the old way of doing it, and there's a lot of benefits to doing that. The company will pay less for that service compared to an in-house division. That the company, like the IT and HR company, they can be focused on that specific domain, so they'll be up to date with current technologies because they're dealing with multiple companies, but they still have a singular focus. Uh, and also the benefit with taking a small part of what a bigger company is doing is that they have a tried and true market. The big companies have proven that there's a market for that product. So if you can just take that and make it a little better or a little cheaper, then that's a slice of something you can do. But with LLMs, they're fairly new. Like about 7 or 8 years ago, we couldn't even detect a bird in a photo, and now you can generate whatever you want, really. So they're fairly new, and a lot of companies haven't integrated those that technology yet. So 5 years from now, I'd see a lot of companies with AI chatbots. There do exist companies with AI chatbots, but a lot of them are decision tree focused. You know, they don't incorporate LLMs, which is huge for CRM. So my point is that like all this new technology, large language models and stable diffusion, they're going to have a similar effect that AWS had on the industry. It's going to be much easier and much cheaper to have high quality CRM specifically in terms of data collection or question answering. And CRM applies to every company. Every company has customers that they have to handle. So now I want to talk a little bit more about my hackathon experiences, and I'll talk more about teamwork and communication, and some general rules to increase productivity. So number one, I think this is a common misconception, but brainstorm sessions in voice chat are usually not good. And this is because one person can talk at a time and everybody else has to listen. So it slows things down. In addition, you can have group think, which can lower creativity. Instead of critically thinking and evaluating an idea, you're instead focused on maintaining harmony and agreement with the others. In addition, it tends to favor dominant personalities. So people with extroverted personalities, they'll tend to shine through. But there's no indication that extroverted people have, there's no correlation between extroversion and better ideas. But it is true that business does favor extroverts. But an interesting contradiction to that is that the majority of CEOs actually describe themselves as introverts. There's a lot more to talk about the introvert extrovert ideal, but I would recommend reading Susan Cain's book called Quiet. It's very, very insightful. She talks about the biological reasons for it, how extroverts and introverts perform in different situations, and what skills are typically associated with them, how to get the best out of it. So instead of brainstorming in voice chat, you can brainstorm over text. So something like Discord is a great medium for communication. And this is because you can reread the messages for clarification. You have a written record of it, so you'll know exactly what everybody's talking about at any point in time, and you can message people if you want more clarification of that idea. Then I'm not saying you shouldn't have discussions. You should still have discussions. But when you do have discussions, you should always have a clear goal um, for the discussion. So everybody's on the same page. In addition, you should always understand the skills and abilities of your teammates, and this way you can put them to use. And finally, always be willing to listen and be polite. I think that's an important skill. People have egos, and people want to be heard. And if someone's ego is bruised, they might not want to contribute as much, and that's a shame. Uh, it seems like common sense, but I've seen it many times, and I feel like we all need reminders to do so. So next, I want to talk a little bit more about hackathons. So how do you come up with the idea for it? How do you present it? And finally, what happens after a hackathon? So first, this is also a common misconception. You don't need to know everything about everything. You don't need to know how Stable Diffusion works if you want to use it. If you want to make changes to it or do research on it, yeah, definitely. But and sometimes it might help to know how it works to understand the limitations of it. But I remember when I did the Stable Diffusion hackathon, I had no idea how it works. But it definitely helps to understand the limitations and what use cases they have. So it's important to do resource to verify the resource, to read through some resources. One resource that was told to me by AI21's Yotam was Helm, which describes how the language models are evaluated and in what use cases they can be used. In addition, you can read the use cases on various services. So Cohere, they have a dedicated page for what their large language models can do. Hugging Face Hub and their forums, they provide the latest and greatest models. Like they provide all new information on that. It's really good to keep up to date with that. LangChain as well. They have various integrations with all kinds of services. I'll actually paste the link of LangChain in the Twitch chat. For you guys to check it out, because I think reading through the integrations is a really good idea, specifically on the large language model side. Finally, it's really important to understand the limitations, because I see a lot of people, they think AI is magic, but it's not. They have problems. They have things that need to be solved by integrating with various other technologies. One particular example is ChatGPT and the Monty Hall problem. If you're not familiar with the Monty Hall problem, it's essentially a game show where there's 3 doors. One of the doors has a Ferrari behind it and 2 goats behind the other 2 doors. And so if you ask ChatGPT to solve that problem, yes, it can solve it. But if you change the question slightly and say that you have glass doors, and you say that ChatGPT chooses the one with the car, the question is, would ChatGPT still switch? And it would still switch because it still thinks it's the Monty Hall problem when it's not. So these are some of the problems with large language models. They'll try and ascribe patterns to things that may not fit that pattern. In addition, they might hallucinate. So validation is a huge problem in large language models. And it doesn't really work when you have real world liability that could be a problem for it. So for example, if I were to use large language models in a medical way, there's huge liability problems with that. How can you trust exactly what they're saying? So instead, you can pair it up with a vector database, and that has validated results, and so you have a viable product with that. Um, yeah, so you definitely need to know the limitations and the basic capabilities of all the technologies to be able to create a product that works. So now I want to talk more about how do you actually come up with ideas? Like, where do ideas come from? So I think there's two systems in your brain. One's your fast brain, which is your automatic, intuitive. This is your operating quickly with little conscious effort. You have it uses mental shortcuts to quickly process information and make decisions. Then you have your slow brain, which is your deliberate, analytical side of your brain. It requires conscious effort and attention. You need to actively focus on it. And this part of your brain you're going to use for complex problem solving, critical thinking. It's your logical thought process. So you have to figure out a way to use both sides of your brain to make sure that you get the right ideas, and that involves understanding your learning patterns. For me, when I was in university, it took me a while to realize that I wasn't learning anything in class. So after second year, I stopped going to class and just started reading the material on my own, and I found that was a way better way for me to learn. So definitely try and identify your learning patterns. Yeah, a little more on the fast brain and the slow brain. So your fast brain, it works very fast, but it can have biases and errors in your judgment. And your slow brain, well, it's slow, so you probably don't want to use it for everything. So ideally, you would use your fast brain to come up with ideas and your slow brain to verify it. And that's literally the only way to train it. So um, I'm not sure if you want to take time out of your day, but spend some time thinking about an idea, thinking about a random idea, and then start critically thinking about it, saying, is it a viable idea? Is this a good idea? And I'll talk more about how to identify it's a good idea a little later. So I also want to talk about when do you get your best ideas. So you want to be in a relaxed state of mind. For me, I get a lot of my ideas when I'm about to fall asleep. So I keep a notepad handy. So I write them down if one comes to me. Um, Another good way is to be aware of a problem, but not focused on it. So if you're focused on it, you find you might get frustrated. Whereas if you're doing some other menial task, like if you're chopping vegetables, but you're still aware of a problem and you still be thinking about it, and you might come to a realization without even realizing it. Another interesting thing is flow state. There's a lot of research that goes into how to get into flow state. Sometimes it can be as simple as just sitting down at your computer and listening to the music that you like and just doing the work. So I'll talk about more about the criteria for what's a good idea. Uh, Essentially, it's fixing a pain point. So is it something that is bothering people? And then also you have to look at existing solutions and if you can improve them. Then you also have to consider the market. Who is going to use this idea? So, for example, Web Indexer, which is the question answering tool for information on websites, who is actually going to use that? So, websites are the market. That's who I would sell the product to. But how would I convince them to buy it? I have to convince them that it has business value. So, one way to do that is to do A/B testing. So, I'll take their website and I'll incorporate that. The tool into it and compare it to another website which doesn't have the tool and see whether customers actually buy more products or whatever the metric is for business value. So A/B testing is one option, or you can do a research group. Then you also have to consider your business model. So these are more of the later stages. So would you want to deliver your product as a one-time purchase? And this is typically a software package or a subscription. Yeah, a software package. Another option is to do subscription based, and this has benefits because you maintain customer retention and you have a predictable source of revenue. Another option is resource-based costs, and this is a lot better with large language models because you can offload the cost of using the large language models to the customer. And finally, the tech part, which comes back to the black box knowledge. Is it really possible? What are the limitations? What are the problems with it? Is it a good idea? And so that comes back to verifying whether this idea is good or not. So you come up with an idea and then you use your slow brain to assess whether it's a good idea. And that way you're training your fast brain to essentially like a large language model to come up with those ideas and make sure they're good ideas. So next I want to talk about how to present your idea. And I think this is probably the most important skill. You could have the most revolutionary idea, but if you don't know how to present it, nobody's going to listen to you. So for Web Indexer, or for all of my projects, I use this general template, which is the classic what, why, how, when, and who. So what is just your elevator pitch. You want to be able to describe the project in 1 or 2 lines. Then, so for Web Indexer, it was the question answering tool to find specific information on websites. Then you have the why, which is what is the problem and what are the existing solutions? So you can assess whether your product can actually is better than the existing solutions. Then you can talk about how. So how did you solve the problem? And in this particular section, you have to be mindful of how much technical language you're using, because sometimes the audience is not too familiar with the technical jargon. So yeah, you have to assess who your audience is. And you should definitely include some design choices, because it's important to show that you've considered alternatives. And another tip is to always include diagrams. Diagrams are much easier to learn, much easier to see compared to just a wall of text. So would definitely recommend diagrams. Then we move on to the when, which is the future work. So what are the next steps? And what do you see as the future for your product? And finally, the who, which is what is the business case? Who is your market? Why are they going to use your product? How are they going to use it? So these are all questions that you would answer in your presentation. So next I want to talk about life after hackathons, specifically in my experience. So you have 2 main options, I think, which is taking your product and making a startup, or becoming an independent contractor with the publicity you get from winning hackathons. So I'm going to focus on the second one. So I was contacted by organizations to present their product or to make a project out of their product, sort of as a personal hackathon. So that there's some different contract types that you can do. One of them is paid services. So one is that if you don't really want to sell the code, you want to keep the code rights to yourself, but sell the product itself, then you can do a paid services contract. Then there's assignment of rights contracts, which means you're actually selling the code. They own the code now. You have service and management, which means you're offering to maintain service and make sure that the product stays up to date. And if it has any bugs, they can contact you. So you can look into that. Then as for fee types, there's a couple options. One of them is a retainer fee. And generally you want to do this if you have a lot of knowledge to offer. So if the company is working on products and you can really offer a lot of knowledge in that domain, then a retainer fee is absolutely the right way. But most clients would prefer an outright project fee. And this is in contrast to an hourly fee, because then they know how much the actual project will cost, so they can know whether they can afford it right away. And it's always important to remember that they're paying for your expertise. So if you're considering an hourly fee, you have a lot of experience in it. So they've got to consider your expertise in it as well. Yeah, so that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it was insightful.
Yes, I'm sure it was, and I'm ready to join for Q&A session. And I really have a few questions about it. And I even wrote it down while I was looking for your answers. Guys, just to make sure, are we logging on the stream or we are fine? Please let me know, because for me it seems like a bit lagging, and I hope it's only for me. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I have, while people are writing us questions regarding the idea formation, I have a really question for you because you completed a lot of hackathons. And actually, I'm interested, what's the difference for you of good idea for the hackathon and good startup idea?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you're doing the hackathon, you can focus a little less on the market. Um, I remember when I was doing the Stable Diffusion hackathon, though, like one of the judges' criteria was what is the market, and that was different from the AI Transformers hackathon. So in a way, it depends a little bit on what the judges are looking for. But yeah, if you're in the real world, that it's all about business value, it's all about the market. So it's less focused on the idea and whether you can, whether you have an actionable plan to do. Um, so yeah, I'd say there's definitely more of a focus on market in real world applications.
All right, and second question also related to the business value. Um, when you were preparing ideas for all of these hackathons you completed, and it was actually a lot, uh, did you focus first on the things you really like to build, so it was fun for you to build, or more on really business value? Because I remember you had different types of projects. So it was research app, yeah, that helps actually researchers to find the content. You had Stable Diffusion like stories builder, and on the AI21 you had web indexers, so completely different types of projects. And what was the plan for each one? And did you, yeah, focus first on what you like or what would be useful for users?
I think it was a combination of both. Um, a lot of it was a learning experience for me. I was fairly new to large language models as a service. Yeah, so a lot of it was learning, and I'm always interested in learning, and I very much liked it. But I like the factor of business value. That was definitely a huge part of it. There were some ideas that I think I came up with or that were as option. They were options, but they were discounted purely because of the business value, as you say. But generally, I try to just think about what would I like to use, or put myself in the perspective of someone who would be interested in using it, so your audience, um, and just asking myself, what would I like to see? How do I make this easier for them? And just asking yourself the critical questions about that. But yeah, definitely focusing on what you like is a great motivation as well because that way you get to satisfy your own curiosity and your own
Uh,
interests.
Completely. And did you try also to build an app that can be useful for you in your job?
Yeah, so right now, I'm working on on a project, which is a job application project, and it's powered by large language models because I think they'd be great at writing cover letters instead of me writing them. And I like it to be able to add my own personal touch to the cover letters, as well as building your resume specifically for the job description. So that's a project I'm working on right now. And because it'd be very useful for me and for anybody else who's applying for jobs and is a little tired of the repetitive nature of applying for jobs.
It is definitely. I would love to see the project. So is it the hackathon project or you just building it on site?
It's independent. I
Independent.
sent it for a hack.
All right. And let me ask the final question. If guys in the chat, if you still have something you are interested in, yeah, we just have commented it's great presentation. If you have some questions to Rahel, I'm more than happy to ask. And I have my last one that I prepared. Actually, what skills you developed during the hackathon and in general, like can hackathon help you in developing skills or it just a great way to use or to test yourself, and your skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, my initial thought, like before, about a month ago, I would have thought that there were no transferable skills from hackathons. But I think it's also a great way to get a product out in a limited time. But actually, those skills that I've learned from that, they've sort of bounced me from or interested me now to learn more about it. So really, the hackathons were a stepping stone to more knowledge, to learning more. So
Mhm.
even if the transferable skills are not super high, and that's only because a lot of companies have not yet truly integrated AI on such a massive scale just yet, um, and so transferable in that way. But also, it's a stepping stone for any future endeavors.
All right, thank you. And I have one more question from the chat. I can't really get it, but if you will, probably you saw it as well. What about using Bloom in real world projects?
I'm not familiar with Bloom. Um,
Me neither. Let me just Google it. I guess
I might notice
it's
something
something
else.
really easy. No, I actually didn't find anything.
Oh,
The person did just ask. Maybe you can specify a bit.
it's
Oh,
a
Bloom.
data delivery platform for business operations. Oh, large language models. Oh, is this the um I don't remember. I see. Okay. I haven't worked with these. I don't even remember seeing them in Helm's large language models evaluation. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I haven't worked with it. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure if it's in Helm, like a holistic evaluation for large language models. Um, but I'd say definitely check that out and see if it's there and see what use cases you can use it for, because they have pretty good coverage of all the different scenarios. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know too much about Bloom.
Has more parameter than GPT-3. So is it text generated model as well?
Yeah, it seems to be a large
Or
language model. Um, yeah, yeah, my recommendation is
okay.
just to check out Helm and see if they have information on it.
By the way, if you see the technology really interesting for you and you would love to build it with it, so it's very good idea to tell to LabLab team because our partner managers are more than happy to contact with the company and make a hackathon on it as usual. So just also let us know. And this Bloom seems very interesting for me as well. So I will give this information for the team. We will definitely take a look on it. All right. Thank you so much, Rahil. I do not see many questions. Maybe you want to close the talk with some words.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna post the link to the Helm resource. It's a really great
Okay.
resource if you want to understand more about the capabilities of large language models. Um, yeah, it was great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Uh, definitely do some hackathons if you're interested in learning. Great learning opportunity. Um, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you a lot. Thank you. And we have another speakers. We have Namo for now with us. Could you please turn on your camera so everybody can see you here? And he will be talking today about how hackathons can be an effective way to form a startup from team building to designing business plan. Because that's very interesting use case. They were participating in one of the hackathons with amazing project which called Book and I, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember that I was mentoring you for some time when you were asking about the business model as well. And I know that now you're working on this project as a startup and you have some big announcement for us in a couple of weeks. Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear your talk about your experience building actual startup during the hackathon. Hello, Nemo.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. Great.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think to me, participating in hackathon is one of the major gifts I think I received from last year because it was a little bit unexpected, not to mention we actually scored a second place. So for me at the time, because I learned about ChatGPT pretty late, but I was super excited about the whole generative AI, applied AI industry. So I wanted to find opportunity for me to learn further. So that's where I stumbled upon LabLab AI hackathon, the OpenAI hackathon. And when I participated, I remember the first day I was a little bit scared, to be honest, because I consider myself a non-technical founder. So sometimes it was actually my second hackathon, and I didn't know, how would I participate, what my roles are in a team in order to participate into a high-tech hackathon like this. So I was a little bit terrified in the first day. However, my current co-founders, one of them reached out to me on Discord. They were like, "Oh, I actually like your background in education and business. So would you mind just have a chat about it?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, I'm so open to any conversations." So we started talking and understanding their backgrounds and their passion towards personalized education. And I was like, "Yes, that's definitely something that I'm interested in. That's what I'm studying for." So we talk about ideas. We schedule more meetings after the first day of the kickoff event, and we settled down. Okay, we want to form a team together, and let's get it started. So I think that's just something that's serendipitous just happened, and I love how I can be part of the hackathon because of that welcoming experience. So I just want to say that if you are not a technical person who joined the hackathon, don't worry about it. There's a lot of ways you can contribute. For example, if you are business oriented, if you are design oriented, if you love designing deliverables, or help us as some sort of marketing expert, it can contribute so many ways. So participating hackathon is definitely a big perk that's ever happened to me. So I think today I want to talk about how I see hackathon as an effective way for everyone to build a startup. So first thing is considering team building. So team building, has been the topic in the startup world. People are talking about, founders are the crucial part of the startup business. The angel investors as well as the early investors who want to invest in your business it is actually want to invest in co-founders or founders. They believe in person who can deliver, who can execute, who can make their vision happen. So focus on yourself is really important. Focus on your team is very important. And I think hackathon provides an opportunity for that. So for example, if you are not a technical founder like myself, you might be struggling a lot about where you can find technical co-founders to build a product for you to even validate a viable ideas. So that's where I see most of building ideas just stop right here because non-tech founders often have difficulty finding the right team or right resources. So even though there are so many no-code tools out there like Bubble to help you get started, but if you're actually thinking about building a scalable business, a startup, then having a technical co-founder can actually boost your performance and the success rate by multiple folds. So I think that's why I love about hackathons is it actually gave me the opportunity to meet engineers and designers. It's one of the best platforms and opportunity to acquire talents and collaborators. So from there, you can actually build connections. You can work with like-minded people, talk about all sorts of crazy ideas and how you want to pursue them. And you can work together for a few days and to understand each other's working styles. So I think that's what is the most important. Are your expectations aligned? Are your visions aligned? Are your styles of working aligned? How can you resolve conflicts, arguments, and how can you work as a team moving forward, for months and even years? So I think hackathon provides that brief moment for you to understand each other, and I think grab the opportunity while you are still participating in the hackathon, know people, get to know people, and get to work with people. This is an amazing opportunity. So I think vice versa. If you are a tech founder with solid education and trainings in the past, you might want to think about bringing people with business or design backgrounds to your team to diversify your product offerings or even stretch your imaginations beyond what you current offer. So a lot of times business-minded talents can help you identify value in certain markets and help you to navigate funding opportunities, to help you craft a better pitch story and pitchings, can help you identify the opportunities, partnerships and customers, early customer pipelines, and so on and so forth. So they are very valuable to your business early on and also moving forward. And also work with people with design-oriented, design-minded, can actually help you to bring in a lot of creative ideas. And not just ideas, is I think what's becoming essential is how you can apply this human-centric design into your product. Especially in generative AI landscape, what we have seen so far is, it's not just about the tech itself, it's about how you deliver your product, how you educate your audiences, and how you wrap your product into a nice user experience so that they want to use your product because your product is actually solving a pain point or offer solutions that's never been existed in the history. So think about that, the design thinking. I think an example of that could be ChatGPT. So GPT-3 model, as far as I know, it has been introduced since 2020 and it has been around for a while. But why all of a sudden ChatGPT brings up all the hype for applied AI or applied large language model? I think it's because of the design. The interface is very intuitive, and the solution is very elegant and very practical in a way of how people have been expected from AI. They give you the content you wanted. They throw out strategies. They give you solutions, and it's only within a few lines of words, and you just prompt it, and you receive the responses from ChatGPT. I think that's what makes it powerful. To me, it's like magic spells. You just speak up, and then something magic will happen. But in fact, I think truly it's just the way of how we as humans communicate with one another, exchange thoughts, exchange ideas, exchange products through language. And I think the same thing goes with AI products. How do you communicate with AI? How do you collaborate with AI? That's becoming essential part of the thinking. It's very essential part of the design. So thinking about design, thinking about business, I think that will get you really further. And the second thing I want to talk about is how do you leverage hackathon as a sprint for your business strategizing. So I think one beauty of participating in hackathon is it actually gives you the opportunity to achieve maximum efficiency in a short amount of time. So usually a startup product or any product development follows a cycle. So you either have an idea or you want to solve a problem, and then you get feedback, and then you talk to people to validate those assumptions. Are they viable? And you start prototyping and running the user testing. You get the feedback from your early users, and you start improving your offerings. And then the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats again. So one cycle is a sprint, and startups tend to have so many pivots, so many sprints to validate a lot of assumptions, a lot of features, a lot of deployment. So depending on the outcome of the sprints. So that's why I think thinking of hackathon as your first sprint, and it's a powerful sprint, is a perfect idea. You quickly came up with an idea or a big pain point you want to solve, and then you work with your teammates within a few days, within a week, to validate are these demands existing in the market. Are these products viable in the market? And then through validation, through pitch, through prototyping, showing to your friends and families, through those things, you can actually validate if the product you develop from the hackathon is something that you want to pursue after the hackathon. So take that opportunity seriously, and then thinking of how if this is a startup, how can I move forward from here? And at hackathon, when you proceeding to the judging phase, your audience are obviously the hackathon judges. But I think a lot of times, think of them as investors too, since they will be drilling on your technicality, defensibility, and then business potentials. And in fact, during my first couple investor meetings, that's all I hear, and all the feedback I got is, okay, tell me about how you are different than ChatGPT or the other generative AIs out there. What's your defensibility? How can you make this business sustainable? What's your sustainable moat? And what's your strategy moving forward? What's your go-to market? Who's your biggest clients? Who's your customers? What's your niche markets? Are you B2B or are you B2C? So there's a lot of things to think about. So that's why I think being part of the hackathon gives you that opportunity as at least think of it as your first investor meeting, how you are going to present a viable idea that you want to convince them this is a great idea. It's the idea you think is going to be the future, and you are getting resources from them. It's not just monetary, but also connections, professional customer pipelines, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be a lot of pitches you're going to deliver as a startup founder. So after hackathon, your audience will extend to many other stakeholders. For example, your potential users, your potential customers, the economic payers who's actually paying for your product. It probably not your users, but maybe it's a business, an enterprise, or maybe parents, so on and so forth. And also you're going to talk with your strategic partners, your strategic any collaborators that you are going to bring into your business. So these pitches are quite different, but also similar. You need to talk about how you can offer add-on value to their business, or even have them to collaborating with you. So I think that's a lot to think about. Having conversations tailored to each audience is very essential to think about your business economics at scale. And come back to hackathon. So I think one way to think of this is leverage the resources and tools you have to make this as an opportunity to approach audience that you think that matters to you. For example, it can be a user, it can be an investor, or it can be a partner. And in my experience, I actually leverage some of the generative AI tools to scaffolding my thinking. So for example, when we try to think of a problem statement. So what if a statement? I actually used ChatGPT to help me to brainstorm. And when I try to identify markets, I used ChatGPT to help me to think of potential markets that this solution can be developed into, and so on and so forth. You can start brainstorming your business plan with generative AI tools out there. There are tools that can generate PowerPoint. There are tools that can help you to break down some of the writings and contents and thinkings. And there are tools to help you analyze, documents, markets, etc. Getting those insights are very, crucial and important. And I think as startup founders, you always want to keep learning and keep growing. So how do you make that process, enjoyable and interesting? Is one of the skills founders should have, is to enjoy the journey. The journey is never going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of struggles and obstacles. But I think the last point I want to make is to have the right mindset. It can be open mindset. It can be a humble mindset. It can be, joyful mindset. But down to the earth, I feel like this is a journey you have to enjoy. So a lot of obstacles you're going to encounter. For example, you'll probably have arguments with your co-founders or with your hackathon teammates about deployment, about design, about deliverables, and you will probably have a lot of pivots your currently offerings are not going to provide, and then you're going to pivot multiple times. It can be frustrating, it can be time consuming, and you will face rejections and disappointments from a lot of meetings you have. It could be your mentors, it could be your investors, it could be your customers telling you this is not a product I want to use. But these are super normal, I think, in a founder's life, and absolutely normal. And not only get used to that, but also have the right mindset on how to you ease yourself from negative thoughts, thinking you cannot do this anymore, but think of it as a learning opportunity and how you can move forward from these obstacles. Yeah, I think I will stop pause right here and see if anyone has questions.
Right. And I guess I will be the first person that has questions. And after that, guys, I will let you in as well. So feel free to write the questions in the chat. I can see the chat all the time, so I will be more than happy to address them. Nemo, tell me please, what did you do first after completing the hackathon? Like, what was the first step between, hackathon team and actually the startup? Because it seemed like really, a really huge difference. When you go to the hackathon, you have like this plan to be good there, maybe even to win the hackathon. But what should be next? What should people think right after the hackathon to make a startup from this?
So actually, my initial thoughts was not about winning, it's about learning. But winning is definitely an unexpected outcome, at least for me personally. However, having a win means that someone validates our ideas, someone appreciates our idea, someone supports our idea. I think that's a big plus for us. So we had a really serious conversations a week after hackathon talking about, okay, what does this mean to us? Does that mean that we actually have people who wants to invest in us? Does that mean we actually have people who appreciate what we're building? Does that mean we actually have customers who are going to use our product to boost their productivity and so on and so forth? So we talked about all the possibilities, all the potentials, and reached a conclusion that okay, let's make this a business, a scalable business, that actually we can reach to mass, audiences and make a difference in the world. It can be, changing how people interact with traditional media, passive documents, or any things that we need to start thinking and we need to start acting. And I think at the time, my two co-founders actually have this thinking of going bootstrap. So bootstrap meaning that we start building a business that start generating a little bit revenue and going slowly and going sustainably and going peacefully to achieve some of the profit. But I convinced them that okay, we need to go to the startup route, which means we want to take venture capital's money and to really accelerate our growth. Because what I see right now is generative AI space is super competitive, super competitive. It's a lot of times it's about timing, it's about the speed. So if you have the ability to take in capitals and human capitals quickly and start scaling and building up your offerings, I think that will help you to really go into the market and see, what's out there.
All right. Oh, when we had conversation with you, I remember during the hackathon actually, when I was checking the concept, because it's the step of the hackathon, actually you need to check your concept with mentors. We were talking about finding the customer that will be ready to pay you. And which models did you actually use? Did you decided to go to the business, like the people who actually have money and if this software can be useful for them? Or you decided to go to the final customers, like B2C business
That's a
model?
really good question. And to be very honest, we're still figuring out. And I think it's unending, journey to keep figuring out who's your economic players. Because at first, our product is focused on education. And in education industry, you can have a lot of users, you can have big impact, but the problem is who's going to pay for it? Is it schools? Are these schools or are the parents? Are the students? Who are the student K-12 or college students, adult learners? So there are a lot of questions unanswered. So that's why right now we're thinking about having many sprints in the next 3 months to start with business to customers model first, gathering useful data to see okay which sector customers are using our product the most and how do they use it, and can we learn anything from the user testing? Can we build our defensibility, go into a specific vertical markets? So we are actually thinking about B2B as well. So in fact, actually right now we're in conversation with several big corporations right now to thinking about bringing our solutions to their business as a SaaS model. So that's also an interesting offer. And we're also thinking about, okay, can we start start a sprint to figure out, to test out if our offerings can actually add on some values to the businesses. Can the SaaS model actually bring value to us? How are we going to control the cost? How are we going to make money? So there's a lot of unanswered questions still, but I think that's why it's always the quest to figure out what's best for your business or for yourself.
That's absolutely great idea, I guess, to have this test run and to see how users actually react. Very good idea for hackathon teams. I have one more question from the chat. I will just read it. So, what is your thoughts on MVP working state? Is a simple demo with very limited capabilities to show the idea enough, or should there be more features?
I think that's a really good question. And people call it a minimal viable product for a reason because it's really minimal. Like just focus on the core features that you can have. And a lot of times MVP can even be a Google Sheet, a Google Doc, something that's really simple, but you can simulate the situation that, okay, consider this as your product. Would you use this product in certain ways? So I think don't worry too much of building your product very sophisticated and waste a lot of time on that, because once you build a fine product, maybe that's not what your customers or users wanted, and you are just wasting months building on it. Instead, I think showing some visuals, showing some Figma mockup, that's what we did. We actually did a lot of Figma mockup to show investor this is the potential of the future. This is the future of learning. This is the future of generative AI. And then they were like, wow, this is amazing. Have you actually built the product? We're like, no, we haven't, but this is what we want to build. And then, it actually makes sense because the reason we want to approach investor, we want to have fundraising because we don't have the capital, we don't have the resources yet to achieve what we want to vision. So I think at the point it's to being humble and honest and straightforward. A lot of times don't pretend you know everything in front of your customers and investors. That's why you want the help from them, right? That's why you want the collaborations, because they can help you to achieve what you want to achieve in the future, and then have that honest conversation and exchange of ideas to move forward as a business. I think that's what's important.
All right, thank you. Let me ask probably final question for today. From my side, also, you were actually non-tech person in the team, which is a bit tricky because usually we have a lot of comments from people, especially when we are posting ads. People are commenting that can I actually join the hackathon being non-tech person? And what was actually your role in the team as a non-tech person, and what do you think others people can focus on when they just started joining the team as a non-tech people?
Yeah, of course. And I think for me, my role was actually focused on the business side and also product design perspective. So on the business side, I help team to figure out, what are the markets we're thinking about going in, and how we can construct a business model that's sustainable and potentially profitable, and how can we make deliverable that's convincing to our audience. It can be judges, it can be investors, and how are the terminology in startup world works, and how all the roles, how the roadmaps we're going to achieve in the next 1 month or two. So like I bringing a lot of like a business thinking to the team, and to make them feel really excited, and to help them to see a bigger picture. I think that's one thing. And the second thing is product design. So when I say product design, I don't necessarily code or something, but I actually use Figma to build mockup. So visuals are really, really powerful, and Figma is really, really powerful too. It can actually mimic a situation that you're actually having an app. So having that skills, I think, is very essential for you to communicate what you want to build with engineers, and how you want to build it with engineers. So I think these are two roles I played, at least in my team. But I think there's so much more people with diverse skills can contribute to hackathon.
All right, thanks a lot. And it's really valuable part of over the talk. So you are mostly working on business value, and also design part was on you. Okay. I guess that's might be helpful for people that just joined hackathon and they know where to start when you are non-tech person. All right, thank you so much. Maybe you want to have some final words to our participants and to people who will be building on LabLab for the first time.
Yeah, sounds good. I think I just want to say one thing. Also, what my co-founders taught me, or the way they supported me, is they said to me that they are the tech person and I'm the designer, and it's fine that I don't communicate in their language in coding, but they love the fact that I bring in a lot of crazy idea, like creative ideas, and then they can help me to validate if it is possible into the building, into the deployment. So we work perfectly in that way. So I think find your own developer designer that match the style of your working and have a fantastic hackathon and startup.
Nice finish. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was really excited to talk to you. And I'm not less excited to invite other speakers for today. It will be the last panel for now. And also, I will be more thankful when you can also interact with me, guys, in the chat, because that will be actually panel discussion. So Arthur and Felipe, I'm inviting you to the stream. You may turn on your cameras and we will start discussing. Great.
Hello.
Happy to have you. Hi. Nice to
How are
see
you?
you guys.
Thanks.
Let me start from a quick introduction. Who are you actually, and why did we invited you to this stream today, and what you can talk about? So this guy's just joined the lablab.ai. If I'm not mistaken, for Philippe, it was first hackathon. I'm not
For
sure
both of us,
about.
yes.
Yeah, for both of you was the first
Yep.
hackathon. So they just joined the LabLab, and they built a product which called Forensic AI, and probably you also heard about it. And then one day they woke up, celebrities, Vice wrote about them articles. I today checked that there were much more articles after Vice, and you start to receive emails from people that were interested in cooperation. So I'm really excited to talk with you about this experience and what you're actually planning to do with the project further. So that will be our general idea for today's discussion. And for now, I'm just really want to hear from you. Just introduce yourself quickly and tell about your background and what made you join LabLab Hackathon.
Okay, I can start. I'm Philip. I'm from Portugal, based in Lisbon, and I have a master's degree in computer science, like Artur. So we've been talking between us like a long time ago to participate in something like an hackathon. We've been following the previous hackathons for a long time also, so we decided why not. And then last December, we decided to participate in the OpenAI hackathon, where we've built this forensic AI software. And yeah.
Thank you. Let's
Go
pass
ahead,
on to Arthur.
Yeah, so kind of pretty much similar background to Philippe. So I'm from Portugal as well. I've also taken my master's degree in computer science. That's actually where we met. And yeah, so Philippe was kind of the one who suggested that we could join the hackathon, and we've always been very fond of doing projects together. We've actually been we've had worked in a project, I think 3 years ago. And so yeah, we decided to just do another one. And yeah, that was it.
That's great. And could you share also some details about the project Forensic AI for those who didn't wrote the Wise article?
Basically, yeah. Go ahead, Artur, sorry.
Right. So the concept behind it is for sketch artists, which are people who help witnesses of crimes to have create a visual image of the suspect that they've seen by actually manually sketching the person. And so here's the idea behind it. Our product is to, based on the same descriptions that this witness is going to give to the artist, instead of actually drawing it, the artist will be able to use our software, which is powered by DALI, to actually create a more realistic version of the suspect. That's pretty much the core product.
All right. Let me ask then, about the difference between, because I know that now you have a lot of emails from different types of people, so it can be probably artists, can be media, and also police officers, yeah, who are interested in the product. So how did you imagine your audience that will be potentially interested in using the product versus people that are contacting you now? So what is the main difference, or you actually define this audience well from the beginning?
So I can answer this one. First, we thought about police officers or even private investigators, and basically those were the kind of people that contacted us in the beginning. We also thought about the sketch artist himself, and then we also received an email of one based in the United States, I guess. So I think it's more or less corresponding to what we've been thinking about the use of the project.
Okay. Okay, so after this, I would love to jump on in more your hackathon experience itself, because it's super interesting. On this stream, we have people that didn't participate in the hackathon before. And I want to talk about this. And after that, I really would love to hear about the future plans. Do you have them or no? And let's start from the beginning about the hackathon experience. I already heard a bit what made you join. Yeah, you were interested and you were actually in the field all the time. So just to try to test your skills, probably that was the reason you decided to join. I'm more interested in the process of being here, getting all this information and starting building actually. So what was the biggest challenge here? And maybe there was something you were missing on this journey, and how we can actually improve the process. So maybe some experience from your side and also suggestions how this journey can be better for other people that will join the hackathon.
For my side, for me, I think my biggest challenge was not about the hackathon specifically related, but in my situation, I work full time, so does Artur. So we hadn't the time to attend to all of the workshops and webinars and stuff. So we ended up like working all day in our daily day to jobs, and then at the end of the day we would meet together to work on the project. So I think one idea that I'm having just right now would be to perhaps implement some kind of hackathon to people at works that have a full day time job. I don't know. What do you think, Artur?
Yes, so definitely, I think the time is actually the most challenging part, especially for people like us that work full time. And that's actually an interesting reason. Sort of like weekend hackathon would be interesting. But this was kind of my perspective during this hackathon. Is you really need to spend some time thinking, what is the MVP of what I want to build? What can I actually build in this time? Because the core idea of a hackathon is not to build a product from one point to the other and have like this perfect product ready. Really show what you have and have a great idea and execute it. And it's especially important, as I've said, for people that don't have like 8 hours or 10 hours a day to work on it during the whole hackathon. So yeah, I think that was our main challenge, or at least for me, it was the main challenge to understand what should I exactly build during this time, because I don't have a lot of it.
And was it really enough for you to finish the project in 7 days, or to finish just the basic MVP?
I think
we were able to.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we were no problem. I think we were able to finish what we had in mind. We already had like 100 features in mind already, but we knew that we weren't gonna have time to execute them all. So from what we planned for these 7 days, it was more than enough, and yeah, we were able to execute everything.
All right, let us know also more information about your feelings regarding the hackathon. So, do you really think the hackathon can be helpful for people that already have a job, working on their projects, or it's more like boost when you're just starting? And if can be, how?
I guess it depends on the situation of each person. I mean, for me, my ideal is to build a company of my own. In fact, me and Tur already had one, but it didn't have much success. So perhaps people who are starting in the tech industry, these kind of hackathons are good for them because these hackathons help them develop their skills and stuff, and to create new connections. Networking is also important. But for me, I think I would use this kind of hackathons to try to build a new idea, so that I can develop a new startup idea.
Okay.
Which I guess is what we are trying to do now with the forensic AI. Yeah.
All right. So, do you want to make actually a startup from this idea, or I'm even more interested from the beginning, like what these people are writing to you, and what's usually the general offer for you. So, are they interested in contributing in the idea, so make it more really useful, for example, for police officers, or they are more interested in having you building software for them? What's usually the offer and the
So
suggestion?
yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, we've had different offers. They were mostly focused on collaboration, so people are interested in seeing what we have built, what can they do with that, if it fits their needs or not. And we've also had people asking us if we already have some software to sell, if they can subscribe, etc. But yeah, so that's really it. So people are interested in seeing what we have can become something that they can use. Yeah.
Okay.
And we've already had some people that come to us to propose new features, and that's awesome.
That's really great. All right. And yeah, that's, I guess, time to talk about the plans. So, what do you have in mind? Maybe you didn't start work on it yet, because when I talked to Felipe, inviting him to this talk, he told that you are not working for now. So, maybe you have already some plans. And did this Vice article actually change something in your plans? And yeah, actually gave me some inspiration, Now you want to.
Actually, that article changed our minds because we weren't planning on following the project. It was just our first hackathon, just an experience. But after this commotion around the software, because we had like the two sides of a coin. Some people who were talking that this was like a negative idea, and the other part was people that actually felt like this was a good idea to follow and to build even further. So our first thought about this was to go after these good people, end quote. So we are planning on talking to some of them, because basically they are like private investigators and police officers, just like I previously mentioned. So we are trying to talk to them to see if this project has a use case, a real use case that can benefit people in the long term. Yeah.
That's great. So you're going to go and ask like final customers.
Yeah.
Actually.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, guys. And I have actually the final question for you. I believe you need to go and work on something. But I really want to ask you your advice to the people that are just joining the hackathons. So they are first time. Some of them has a tech background, some of them don't. And what would you advise them to do maybe first, and maybe some points to pay attention on when they just starting?
Yeah. Well, I would say try to get the right team. So don't just focus. This wasn't kind of our case, but we've suffered from it in the past, and we know it's important if you really want to push it to a different level, even after the hackathon, is try to get the very varied team. Don't just focus on getting a lot of engineers. Try to get some product people as well, some product designers, etc. I think that's important, especially for the very tech people. Don't focus on your vision of the product only. That's kind of going back to what Philippe said. Don't just focus on your vision, because if you're not the main end user, and in our case, we are not our own end user, their vision is going to be a lot different. And we've seen it in like 5 emails that we got, that people have completely different visions of our product than we have. So focus on customers first and use our skills to execute. And yeah, just on top of my head, I would say this is the two most important.
I just want to add that perhaps you should surround with hardworking people, because that's the thing that would keep pushing and pushing to deliver a final software project, whatever.
All right. So to summarize, have hard workers in your team, people with different background, and to make sure that your project is matching the expectation as final users. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good points. I'm really thankful for joining me today and giving this just tips and also sharing your story. I'm a bit excited of that the project really blew up and people start seeing that it's actually possible to build something, even small version of final project during 7-day hackathon. And I'm really excited that you guys joined us and show this to others.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. All right, and I want to finalize today's talk and to finalize the workshop, and also I have some invitation for all of you. I hope, Maxim, I'm on the big screen now. And in general, today we have our second startup hackathon, and we were talking about how actually build the startup during the hackathon. So this is the main point, because here you have a lot of opportunities, you have a lot of tech knowledge that we are giving to you, and they are open to each participant. So you can just simply go and have really a lot of information like tech tutorials and access to latest technologies on the market with all the detailed information how they can be used. And also here you have a really huge community that can support you with your project, can be your future co-founders, can be your mentors. So it's really worth it. And I'm here to invite you to the latest hackathon that we'll have. We will have OpenAI hackathon on next weekends and actually whole next week. Also, we'll have Cohere multilingual search with the latest model that just released. South 21 hackathon for people that are from Austria or countries near the. So I'm really invite you to join, especially when you're first time here. And for those who put number 1 when I just asked on the beginning of the stream, I'm really recommend you to go to the page I just shared with you on Twitch, and you may go and check the hackathon you prefer. No matter do you have technical background or don't, and what's your programming language, you can go and find something for you. And I'm really grateful for joining me today. I see that most of the people really stay till the end. It means that you found some information really useful for you. And I hope to see you on the next hackathon we will have. Bye, guys.